So I was sitting here working on another big video, but then I just suddenly thought, why not talk about some 80s slasher film filth? So Terror Train's about a group of medical school students who are having a costume party on New Year's Eve on a train, where they can drink and have sex, and they even have fucking David Copperfield for some reason. But uh-oh, there's a killer on the train stealing people's costumes and killing them. Not necessarily in that order. The concept is pretty straightforward and has a bit of a murder mystery aspect to it. But anyone who watches the introduction to this film is probably gonna have an easy time figuring out who the killer is. The director, Roger Spotswood, said he wanted to make Halloween on a train, and fun fact, he actually came up with the idea for this film through a dream, and within the following 2 days he had written 22 pages of the script, and off his film went, I suppose. Now some of you might be aware of my video on Halloween, and what a high standard and fucking pedestal I placed it upon. But does this movie match the subtlety and nuance that made Halloween such an amazing film? No, but it's still pretty fucking good.
Not only is that gross, but I know who gave it to you.
Terror Train is a somewhat standard affair for its time, with it being an 80s slasher flick, with obvious inspiration coming from Halloween, and much like many of these other slasher films, has been all but forgotten, overshadowed by Halloween or the many slasher films that had like a million sequels, such as Friday the 13th or A Nightmare on Elm Street. However, I'd mark myself as someone of a expert on these sorts of films, mostly because I've fucking watched a bunch of them over time, but also because I have a pretty good understanding of what makes them work. Not necessarily as a film, these aren't winning any fucking pretentious awards, my boys, but what makes them a good slasher film. So what exactly makes a good slasher movie, according to me? Well, it's all about setting up a dark, somewhat suppressive, and quiet atmosphere, juxtaposed by some dumb but lovable, for how corny they are, teenagers, who are then brutally slaughtered by a freaky mofo in a mask. I mean, that's the theory anyway, but what makes a good slasher movie? Well, it's a mixture of one or two things. Either the film needs to be really fucking scary, weird, and dark, such as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes or even Tourist Trap sort of film, or they need to be fun, corny, cheeseball junk food, such as the Friday the 13th films. But you're probably sitting there saying, yeah? So what? Why should I watch this weird 80s slasher film? Well, why all this build-up for a movie called Terror Train? I mean, what are you, some sort of dork, Dylan? Huh? Dylan the Night Owl? More like Dylan the Day Rooster? Well, come take a seat, my overcompensating friend. I'm gonna give you 6 reasons why, so buckle up, kiddos. I'm a man with a fucking list. Number 1. It has Jamie Lee Curtis in it. Jamie Lee fucking Curtis, the star of Halloween, the scream queen herself, okay? I mean, I don't really need to go into much more detail. I mean, she starred in Freaky Friday. I mean, man, what the hell more do you need than that? What more do you want? On a serious note, Curtis is a great actress, and adds a lot to the film overall, being the final girl unsurprisingly, It's odd because I often see people know her for Halloween and another popular slasher flick, Prom Night. But her role in that film is pretty small. I mean, sure, she is technically still a final girl, but if you're looking for Halloween quality Jamie, then look no further. I wonder if anyone's ever tried to make some sort of Jamie Lee Curtis horror film timeline between Halloween, Prom Night, Terror Train, The Fog, and fuck it, we'll go with Freaky Friday for good measure. Number 2. This film actually has some awesome characters and setup. So unlike many slasher films that often have stereotypes and random characters that just sort of feel like, what's the nicest way to put this? Fodder? Yeah, fodder for the killer. This film actually takes time for us to get to know all of these characters, including Elena, our main girl, Mo, her boyfriend and a real fucking goofball, Jackson, the beer guy, Mitchie, the best friend of Elena, and the local slut, as it turns out, and of course the head honcho of this party, Doc. What I like about these characters is they actually have pretty interesting interactions and chemistry, as well as a ton of random bits of humor and odd situations sprinkled throughout their dialogue. I even like the conductor, and the general mood of the film just feels very comforting and fun. These bunch of college students who all know each other well, the drama and the pranks they play on each other. It makes it fun, in between the murders, of course. I can honestly say that while the film really picks up steam in the latter half, get it? Steam? 'Cause it's on a train. The first half, for the most part, is much more of a slow burn and suspenseful film, as many of the characters aren't even aware that people are dying on the train until far later. In other words, the film needed to rely on its characters to help make the film entertaining for the first half. And in my mind, it certainly succeeded, something that not many slasher films get right, and some just outright don't fucking try. So Terror Train is certainly better than most in this one regard. Number 3. It's actually pretty well shot. Now, maybe this is sort of a yeah, so what sort of thing, but let me explain something to you fam, okay? A lot of these one-off slasher flicks, though I love them to pieces, they often look like absolute ass. A lot of these films were made by either really amateurish directors or film crews, or were made on a shoestring budget. Well, let me be more clear. Almost every slasher film, and hell, most every horror films are made on really cheap budgets. But some of these directors decided to cheap out on the camera and lighting. You know, the thing that helps us to see your fucking movie. Point being that in comparison, this film is pretty well shot. It's nicely lit, and I even dare say, quite atmospheric and eerie in certain moments. Which leads me to number 4. It takes place on a fucking train. Okay, this one's a bit of a weird personal thing, but there is something about shit going down on a train that just makes me feel all cozy inside. Even if that shit just so happens to be murder, which is oddly enough what often is the shit that goes down on trains. The best example of this would probably be the anime series Bakano, which is worth talking about in its own right in its own video someday. But suffice to say, it's about the mob, mortals, thieves, murderers, and a fucking lunatic, and 2 lovable meatballs all on a train called the Pussyfoot. I mean, come on, you can't ask for more than that. I also get these same general feelings for the 70s Murders on the Orient Express as another example outside of anime. Point being, the train provides a pleasant atmosphere in certain areas and it feels kinda cozy and lively. But there are also silent areas away from all the partying, and many shots reflect the claustrophobic nature of the setting, making it feel like escape from the masked killer is impossible, which then brings me to my next point. The film has good build-up and tension. As I said before, the claustrophobic hallways create a suffocating atmosphere, as well as the killer himself. I mean, look at this scene.
Hey, Ed, that number at the station? With the sword? Better than Doc could have done.
Look at that motherfucker's eyes. That is super creepy. What I love about this is that often we the audience know what new costume the killer is wearing, and many scenes are set up with him slowly moving his victim away from everyone else and then striking. And the film does an excellent job of creating a cohesive visual language. The same tactic is used in Halloween, but to a far greater extent, of course, as we, the audience, were always given lots of times with the characters alone, Michael watching, stalking them, building this tension constantly until its climax, at the killing. Speaking of Halloween, I feel like several of the kills in this film play with the idea of the bedsheets kill in Halloween. That tension of knowing something dangerous is right there. It creates a good feeling of both suspense and a little bit of humor as well, if looked at in the right way. I also like the soundtrack, and while it may not be anything to necessarily write home about, the final battle theme in particular that plays alongside the final chase scene is actually pretty damn good. Which also brings me to what I consider the most important aspect of any good slasher movie. Number 6, a great chase scene. To me, what can often make or break a great slasher is the chase scenes, which is why many, including a lot of them nowadays, feel sort of disappointing because they often choose to never have a chase scene. I would argue that a good slasher film's most important scene are these scenes. It's just as important as, say, the first kiss in a romance film might be, or the final showdown in a western. Halloween is yet again another great example of a film that knows how to pull this off amazingly. But I don't just want to keep kissing its ass, so let me give you another example. Friday the 13th, in particular Part 2's final chase scenes, are almost always amazing and full of that sweet, sweet suspense juice. We also mustn't forget Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which has not one, but 2 of the best chase scenes in film history, in my opinion anyway. So you know, because it's my opinion, it's probably the correct answer. But all that aside, Terror Train has a great final chase scene that is full of suspense and is quite an intense finale overall. I love the part where the killer starts popping out the lights, in particular. Number 7. The bonus one. Yeah, for all you folks who stayed to watch this far, you get a bonus reason. Don't you feel special? Though, if you haven't seen the film and you still want to see it completely unspoiled for the most part, then skip to this time code, cause I'm literally spoiling the ending. But it just might make you want to see it more, so bear that in mind as well. So this film is unique in that its killer unmasked is somehow so much more fucking scary looking. Like, I feel bad for this actor because he genuinely has some uncanny valley shit going on there. He was also posing as David Copperfield's assistant during a few scenes. This is the kid they pranked at the start of the film named Kenny Hampson. And guys, I'ma be real with you. Reason number 7 isn't that the kid is this freaky. I mean, he is, but it's how he dies. So on that note, I suppose all I can say is, if I piqued your interest in this film, I would certainly recommend it. I love this movie, and I would certainly put it up there with some of the best slasher films ever made. And in fact, I'm almost surprised this film hasn't gotten a remake with how many other movies like this have had them over the years. But maybe that's just what makes this film that much more special. If you're a horror film buff, or you just want to have some fun with friends, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Terror Train. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to comment down below. I kind of wanted to do some of these more random topic videos in between the more formal video essays, because in general, my video essay videos, I'm trying to put more time, research, and effort into. But I also don't want to upload like one video a month, so these I think would be a kind of nice compromise. They would of course go under the Night Owl Cafe videos, and they can really range on any topic, be it a film like this, or a video game, a cartoon, even a fucking book. We really have no limits here. I am also preparing to do another retrospective series similar to the one I did on the Spyro the Dragon trilogy, though this time it will not be on a video game but on a film series, and I'm looking very much forward to doing that. But first, there will be a few more other videos before that. So, until next time, this has been Dylan the Night Owl, flying off.
Dirty Rat.